Welcome back to my channel. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts on what you think about this video at the end of the video. Now, there is a video which is circulating, which I feel people must be aware of. It is about a report that the US is planning for the mass evacuations of Americans. Now, when John Kirby was asked the likelihood about this during a press briefing, he confirmed that it is true in one way or the other by saying that it would be irresponsible if people were not thinking through a broad range. It continues at these impossibilities. Now, what he says next is what shocked me. He goes on to say that certainly evacuations of American citizens is one of those things given what's going on in the Middle East right now. So this is reasonable to think about. Now, this is really an interesting video that I would urge you, my viewers, to watch till the very end, because in this video, we will talk about a lot of things concerning this plan. Check out this video. I will be right back.
Thanks, Admiral. There was some reporting overnight that the U.S. is planning for mass evacuations of Americans if the war were to spread. Can you kind of give context of how likely you guys are viewing that scenario and whether this is very top-level planning or if there's some sort of granular detail that you guys are going into on this effort?
I won't go into granular detail on operational planning one way or another, but it would be imprudent and irresponsible if we didn't have folks thinking through a broad range of contingencies and possibilities, and certainly evacuations are one of those things. I mean, there's not a place in the world where the Pentagon doesn't have contingency plans on the shelf. It may need updating, but have them on the shelf to help with the evacuation of American citizens. And given what's going on in the Middle East right now, I think it's perfectly reasonable. I think it would be imprudent and irresponsible if we weren't doing some kind of contingency thinking. But we're not at a point of execution right now, and there are still plenty of opportunities. For instance, even in Israel, for people to get out. We're still doing contract charter flights, and there's still commercial flights going in and out of Ben Gurion. And frankly, the demand signal for our contract charter flights hasn't been very high. They're still going, but they're not all filled. And the same could be said for places like Lebanon. But each country's different, and the threats and challenges in each will change over time. And we're doing all the right prudent thinking that you would expect us to.
I know that you've thanked Qatar for its role in helping to secure the release of some of the hostages so far, but I was wondering if the U.S. believes that Qatar should expel the Hamas leaders that are in the country right now.
I don't think. Well, I'll just say we're having conversations with partners across the region, and we know that Qatar has an open line of communication with Hamas. And as you saw, we thank Qatar for their support in helping get those two Americans out. I would just tell you that those discussions and those conversations are ongoing and critically important, and I think I need to leave it at that.
Now, after watching that video, we can only see how the US is really planning for the mass evacuations of American citizens if the Gaza war escalates already. Now, this has not happened yet, but it doesn't mean it can't or is not going to happen. But what I'm thinking about right now is what is going to happen to American citizens, or in the name of the US standing up for their allies. Now, people are reacting to this video and they are just sharing their different thoughts on this issue. Check out these teachers. I will be right back. When I do, we talk about this topic in depth.
For all of you people that support the United States going over to other countries, helping our allies, helping other people. No one thinks this. No one thought. Yeah, I had someone literally on a post a couple of days ago say something to me about, oh, you don't think that the United States, do you not know how this works? Do you not know we have to stand by our allies? Okay, all this standing by our allies, what about the American people? What about the American people? What happens when Biden is out here challenging China? Biden is out here doing the shit he's doing, or the government is making these decisions and doing this. You think, I mean, just because it hasn't really happened except for Pearl Harbor, doesn't mean the shit can't happen on the United States soil. Making plans for evacuations already starting to put plans in place to evacuate Americans. Why do we have to evacuate, y'all? Is this a natural disaster? No. This is all political. So everybody who is in support of America, the United States of America, going to be Captain Save-A-Ho for every single city. Now, am I saying that I think that it's right what's going on in other countries? No. But other countries need to handle their shit the way we need to handle our shit. We go out here and send thousands and billions and trillions of dollars for war. But we can't house people in America. We can't feed people in America. We can't help Americans get out of this financial state that we are in. Make this make sense. Congratulations for all of you that think it's a good idea to be going to work. So now, when we have bombs dropping over our head, the way we see on the news on third world countries, the way we see these kids grow up just walking over landmines and shit, you think it can't happen in the United States of America? Keep challenging China. Keep in with Russia. Keep being big boss out here. Keep out here doing the shit you're doing. At some point, we have got to feel this shit on American soil. We've got to feel this. Are we okay with this? Get your you see that? Passports ready. Get your passports for you and your children ready. It's going down, y'all. And who do we have to thank for it?
And there are still plenty of opportunities.
He's being very specific and literal when he says what he just said. It's not a mistake. They tell you what they're going to do to you, then they do it, then they tell you what they did to you. That's how they get their fucking spiritual permission. That's how they get away with doing fucked up shit to people. And y'all just allow it. You don't have to allow it. If we could all get on the same fucking page about something for once. Everybody's like, you know, I'm gonna run out. You ain't gonna run out and do shit. Everybody's got to be united first. Everybody's got to have a common fucking bond and agreement. You know what I mean? Constitution, Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights has to be thoroughly understood, and everybody has to be on the same page. We ain't gonna change shit. The Christians are the new Jews. Just like the Jews were all wearing their best dress, sipping tea, trusted the cops, and 5 minutes after those trains stopped, they got in gas chambered. What the fuck do you think's gonna happen to you when they say they're gonna evacuate Americans? God, you people, y'all better come together while we're alive, or we're gonna come together when they throw us in a fucking hole together.
TikTok, all jokes aside, I have been trying to tell y'all thought I was playing. Let me pitch myself down to a little guy. John Kirby pressed on likelihood of mass evacuation for Americans. I told y'all this a while ago because of what happened with COVID. Right before COVID hit, all of the elite people pulled their money out of their stocks because they knew something. Then the following year, all of the elites start moving out of America. I said back then, they know something that we don't know. And like I said in the previous video that TikTok took down, this war has the potential to spill over on our soil. Now, if we do a mass evacuation, who gets the land? The elites. The dream for a future America is the land of the humanoid robot. They already have diagrams drawn up of the great human replacement. And not everybody has a passport and able to just get out. So when we get that warning to leave America, those that are left will push. Now, these are all allegations, but as you can see, the White House is discussing this already. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Why would the White House be mass evacuations for us?
Now, according to a report in the Washington Post, the Biden administration is creating contagious plans to evacuate hundreds of thousands of American citizens from the Middle East if the war in Israel spirals into a larger-scale conflict. American officials speaking anonymously told the paper that Americans living in Israel and Lebanon are of particular concern amid regular exchanges of fire along the country's border and concerns of a multi-front war. Now, Hezbollah attacks unalived Israeli corporal Tamar Barak 19 and wounded at least 2 foreign workers in the Israel. The IDF responded using airstrikes and infantry. Israel has also begun to evacuate citizens who live close to the border and to amass troops in case of a major attack from the north. Now, this has become a real issue. One official was quoted as saying the administration is very, very worried that this thing is going to get out of hand. About 600,000 American citizens live in Israel, and the U.S. has been working to ensure safe passage out of the country since the war with Hamas broke out on October 7. Now, the State Department urged all citizens in Lebanon to leave the country as soon as possible and offered Americans loans to purchase plane tickets. There were believed to be about 86,000 American citizens in Lebanon at the start of the war, according to the Post. The officials who spoke to the Post stressed that an evacuation of that scale is considered a worst-case scenario, with other more limited operations seen as more likely, but that it would be irresponsible not to have a plan for everything. Such an evacuation could be more difficult than any previous operations in recent memory, the Post reported, potentially involving Air Force aircraft of Navy warships. Now, the U.S. is also concerned about Americans in other countries throughout the region. In Amman, Jordan, thousands of protesters clashed with riot police, and in Tunisia, protesters burned the American flag and demanded the expulsion of the U.S. ambassador. These incidents came following an explosion outside a hospital in Gaza City, which Hamas claimed was the result of an Israeli airstrike. Now, investigations by multiple intelligence agencies have since determined the explosion was the result of an errant fired from within Gaza by Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Now, the specter of such an operation comes as Israeli forces, aided by U.S. weapons and military advisors, prepare for what is widely expected to be a perilous ground offensive against Hamas militants, responsible for the stunning cross-border attack that has reignited hostilities. Now, the officials, speaking on the condition of an anonymity to detail internal deliberations, said Americans living in Israel and neighboring Lebanon are of particular concern, though they stressed that an evacuation of that magnitude is considered a worst-case scenario and that other outcomes are seen as more likely. Still, one official said it would be irresponsible not to have a plan for everything. Now, the administration, despite its forceful public support for Israel, is deeply alarmed by the prospect of escalation, and in recent days, it has turned its attention in part to the complicated logistics of abruptly having to relocate a large number of people. According to 3 people familiar with the discussions, there were about 600,000 U.S. citizens in the Israel and another 86,000 believed to be estimates. Now, the concern in Lebanon is chiefly over Hezbollah, a political party and militant group that, along with allies, currently controls the largest number of parliamentary seats. It entered parliament in 1992. It has long accepted training and weapons from Iran, prompting concerns that it could attack Israel from the north, creating a two-front war that would stretch Israeli forces. Already there have been skirmishes along their shared border. The administration's concern extends beyond those two countries as officials watch the street protests that have spread across the Arab world, putting both U.S. personnel and citizens in the region at heightened risk. Now, the Bay of Gaza has inflamed region of fury at Israel and its treatment of Palestinians, an issue some officials believed no longer carried as much importance in the Arab world. Now, the street to a large extent is now in charge, said Bruce Riddell, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution and former official in the Clinton administration. We were told for the last 10 years that the Arab world and Muslim world didn't care about Palestine anymore, and Abraham Accords were proof of that, referring to agreements signed by the governments of Sudan, Morocco, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates aimed at normalizing relations with Israel. Well, Palestine has come back. I don't think it ever went away. More than 5,000 people in Gaza, mostly civilians and children, have been unalived amid unrelenting Israeli airstrikes since the October 7 attacks, Palestinian health officials say. Top U.S. officials have not wanted to discuss such contingency planning in public, hoping to avoid setting off a panic among Americans in the region. But their posture has shifted in recent days to convey the anxiety about other actors entering the conflict. Now, the State Department issued an advisory to all U.S. citizens worldwide to exercise increased caution due to increased tensions demonstrations in various locations around the world. The potential for terrorist attacks and demonstrations or violent actions against U.S. citizens and interests. The warning was in response to demonstrations that have erupted in response to the Israel-Hamas conflict and broader anger in the Arab world over Washington's full political, economic, and military backing of Israel. Depending on the scale of a potential U.S. evacuation, it could be more difficult than any previous operations in recent memory, experts said. It could involve Air Force aircraft or Navy warships, which have surged to the region this month. Now, with 600,000 Americans in Israel and threats to other Americans across the region, it's hard to think of an evacuation that might compare to this in scale, scope, and complexity, said the director of foreign policy at the Brookings Institution. The sort of adversaries the State Department has put out lately have been fairly blunt, she added. Now, the Pentagon signaled too that it is bracing for a significant increase in attacks on U.S. troops in the Middle East, and the department singled out Iran for its extensive sponsorship of militant groups with a long history of using arms and drones to target American military positions. In response, Pentagon officials said they are surging additional air defense systems to the region. We've come to the end of the video. Please feel free to share your own thoughts on what you think about this video. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video.